All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. We're so delighted to see you here today. It's all kinds of places and all kinds of hours. And thank you for your dedication to research and wanting to have a chance to win a scholarship so that your research can really be very special. You're a special group of students. I assume all of you are doctoral students from all over the world, and interested in this topic of social justice, economic injustice. And we're here today with the purpose of helping you understand the nature of the scholarship and how to complete the application form so that we can improve your chances of being successful in the application process. So I'm going to get started with just some description of the award program, and then followed by Julianne, who's going to walk through the online application form, as well as other requirements with you. Okay, so with that, I'm going to open a PowerPoint file to guide my explanation of the award program. And if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. Julianne's going to watch for them and answer them, the ones that she could answer. And then we will go back to the questions you have, as well as any other questions that you may want to ask at the end of the kind of information giving first, and then we'll make it a real dialogue conversation to address as many questions as we can. So is everything okay so far? You can all hear and okay. All right, so let me pull up the PowerPoint file. Okay, let's do slideshow from the start. Okay, all right. So first of all, my name is Ann Sui. I am a professor emeritus from Arizona State University. I have taught at Duke University, University of California, Irvine, in Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. And my last formal employment was Arizona State University, from where I retired about 11 years ago. And then I went on to Notre Dame to be a special faculty with no teaching responsibilities, just to research and other projects. And I devoted mostly my last 10 years on the Responsible Research Project, which sponsored this scholarship. I also have appointments in China to Chinese universities, plus a few more others. And now I'm just affiliated with these two. Julianne, most of you are familiar with her. Some of you probably have heard from her in your email questions that you may have about a scholarship. And she's the one that's helped us make this scholarship possible. There's a lot of work behind the scene, and she's really the heroine to make this all happen. Okay. All right. So today's focus is on the application process and how to prepare, and then we will leave a lot of time, hopefully, to answer your questions. And then last June, we had an information session, and there's a video recording of the information session, which also have lots of information. So if you did not have a chance to attend that information session, and you might take some time, it's an hour-long session, to review it, to see maybe there are some tips in there about how to prepare your application. And then the application guidelines online. And if you have read it more than a month ago, you might want to go back and review. We have updated a session of it, okay? All right. So the award itself is to recognize, support doctoral students who are committed to research on topics that's important to society. And when we say responsible research, we really mean research that are careful attention to methods, rigor, and also careful attention to the topic, the questions you're asking, so that the knowledge that we gain from your research can be useful to inform policies and practices. So basically, it is about our scientific work that has the responsibility of both good science, producing credible knowledge, and also useful science, producing useful knowledge for practice, and not any practice, but practice to help make this world a better place by paying attention to all the stakeholders beyond the shareholders of the firm. Okay, so the award itself provides financial support up to $10,000. We have funding this year for up to 10 awards, depending on the quality of the application that we receive. If there are more than 10 that are highly qualified and wonderful topics and very promising projects, we may give a few more. In that case, each scholarship may be slightly less than $10,000. But nonetheless, we all know that you're here not just only for the financial support, you're also here because of additional benefits that we are providing along with the financial support. And the additional support that we provide are in two forms. One is support from senior scholars within the responsible research community. We have two students actually from last year's award winners. We were able to assign them each a senior scholar in a field as informal mentors to help them with their projects, to supplement their advice and guidance they are receiving from their dissertation committee. So if you are one of those that are on a method, on an area that their committee, that you like to get some more help beyond your committee members, RBN will do our best to provide you with some support in terms of finding a mentor that might be able to help you with that. So the second kind of non-financial support is the fact that if you are a recipient of this scholarship, you will become a member of what we call a invisible college, a college of active responsible research scholars who all of you we meet quarterly to exchange ideas, to help each other, and to potentially also discuss, have sessions with scholars on topics that is of interest to the community. And so you will continue to help each other and support each other. And you together, in a few years, we hope the cohort will be large enough, become a very formidable force to help our research to be really both useful and credible for the stakeholders that we are serving. And we define the stakeholders we're serving in terms of our scientific work that goes well beyond just shareholders of the firm. All right, so in terms of who's qualified to apply, we are focusing on students enrolled in business school at this point. We might extend beyond that, but for the short term, we like to encourage business school students to pay more attention to important problems in our society. Business school research historically have focused primarily on how to help firms to be more productive, be more profitable, more innovative, and the outcome of which really is beneficial for the firm's profits, market value, and top managers, and sometimes at the expense of other stakeholders such as employees and the society in terms of equity issues, and in terms of climate issues, resource depletion issues, and you name it. Our business models based on research in the last 100-some years really have catered a lot, exclusively almost to shareholders and owners of business firms. And we want to even the playing field so that the other stakeholders get some of our research attention and to help generate knowledge that can help business practices and policies that will provide some benefits to other stakeholders as well. So in terms of who within the business school community are most qualified to apply, we're looking at those that have already know what is your research topic, and you have some idea what methods you're going to use. You already have passed your qualifying exam, but which basically means that you've completed your coursework. The number of coursework, of course, differs widely between different countries. In US, most schools have 2-year coursework. In Europe, maybe less, but more or less 1 or 2 years after you enter the doctoral program, having completed the coursework, having completed the qualifying exam, and you may not be advanced to candidacy yet, but we would like that to be behind you. You're really devoting your whole time to working on dissertation research. And that is kind of the sweet spot of where you are. So with that, then we are looking at you completing your project within 12 to 24 months after the award, which is next March. Okay, so that would be, so if you have no idea at all what you want to study, you really can't apply because you don't have a proposal that's mature enough to apply. So you'd be one idea quite mature, but not so completed so that you really don't need any more financial support to complete your research. So that's kind of that particular 1 or 2 years after you enter, and no more than 3 to 4 years in that range. So another important eligibility is that it shows your commitment to responsible research. And it's responsible research for us, we have offers 7 principles to guide in your research design. So a familiarity with the 7 principles of responsible research and using them to help you think through your dissertation research ideas, how to choose refined topics so that it fits the idea of research is in service to society, and also the other principles that help you develop a more rigorous methodology, producing more credible results and producing more useful knowledge. And you want to look at previous owners' topics and projects, you can, there's a list is on the website. So here's a very important page on research topics, what we are looking for. We are looking for research ideas and projects that will produce or generate knowledge or actionable ideas that will eventually lead to less inequality or more justice within organizations and in society, focusing primarily on what is a business can do to reduce inequality or justice. And the inequality areas include many dimensions. We are less restricted about that. It could be about economic inequality, which is really a very big deal in the United States because of the tremendous difference between the top pay and the bottom pay. In Europe, it is much better. And the other, I think US probably leads the world, with exception possibly UK and France, that are also quite high up in terms of inequality within organizations, the pay range. So that's a really serious problem because we know from research that pay policies of companies spill over into societies, inequality, economic equality as a whole. So if you're poor, not much income, you don't have that much savings to invest. If you're wealthy, you have more, not only earn income, you also have more money to invest. You have your investment income is also good. So it magnifies the inequality in the society if there's inequality in the organization. Racial and gender inequity is a very old topic, but progress is slow in organizations, so we need more research on that. So women and men doing the same work, pay difference is still a gap there. Racially, of course, we know the minority family average annual income is much less than the majority. So there's a lot of work to be done there. So through the research, we hope to gain knowledge about what companies and businesses can do to provide more equal access to opportunities and resources. And overall, we're looking at well-being of stakeholders beyond shareholders. Okay, so clearly these topics are mentioned quite a bit in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So if you look at it, if you're familiar with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, then you can go there and look for any of the goals that relate to social economic inequality, especially. If you're interested in climate inequality, that certainly also would qualify, especially climate inequality, really what firms can do to reduce climate inequality in developing countries, in developed country as a whole. So organizations really can do a lot in that area, beyond paying for emitting carbon. How about emit less carbon? It can be more profitable and saving some monies and while helping society as a whole. So there are many topics within the SDGs that relate to our theme of justice or inequality as a whole. All right, so the application requirements are really three things that you need to be thinking about. The first is the proposal itself, okay? I'll have more to say about the details of that. And then 2 reference letters and the curriculum CV. So the submission is online, and Julian will help us walk through that, and I will talk a little bit about the proposal itself, that what all you need to write in the proposal. Okay, so let me go to the proposal itself. So we're looking at 10 pages, double spaced, the text itself. So you can have up to 5 additional pages for references, tables, and figures, and possibly appendices, but nothing beyond that. Okay, so that's a very strict guideline. We do not want to send you a 100-page proposal, and that would disqualify itself as stage 1. Okay, so you need to tailor your research ideas to our requirements. And the proposal itself has 7 sessions, all right, and they're not equally of equal length. Some would be longer, some could be very short. So the first session is a clearly articulated research questions. So the question will imply some aspect of justice issues. If you have nothing about justice in the research question, then it would be kind of questionable. What, you know, so we have to dig deeper to see what you're doing, and that to us, then you're really not clear about your research focus. We want it to be very clear that you're looking at some aspects of inequality or injustice. Then we'd like you to tell us a little bit, what is your motivation? Why is that question important? And how does it relate to the theme of the call for applications, and your personal interest on the topic? How to get interested in this question, and why is it important for scholarship as well as for society? The third session will be a literature review, a brief, concise literature review. At the end of it, you will be talking about contributions. What are the contributions from this research? And I have more to say along for the seven sessions. So method, 5 and 6 are particular areas that most students don't think about it, but we like to encourage you to think about it, and which is to stakeholder engagement. In other words, when you do research, think about who are you studying? Individuals, firms, groups, then involve them in your research to help you define the question much better, to help you understand the phenomenon better, and to get that insight into the method you're using and into the data that you obtain, as well as to help you with the interpretation of findings. All right. So then the next session is response to research principles, a brief statement about how your proposal aligns with that. And lastly is a question on a timeline of your research going forward from March next year to the completion of it, and the budget. Again, there's further elaboration of each of the sections. So I already talked about the research question, your motivation, and the literature. And we're looking at 15 references. You will give us 50 references that might disqualify your proposal. So be very selective to select the best references. And we will look at what references to use to make sure that your references is matched with the topic, and you are in fact drawing the right references. The reviewers may offer some suggestions. We encourage reviewers to give each proposal some feedback. So if you're missing a major reference, they might offer that to you, but we want you to have done the homework of finding the best references to let us know what do we know about the question already, and what is the contribution to knowledge and to practice based on your research when successfully completed. Okay, so the method, we encourage, especially if possible, multiple methods. There are 3 broad categories: qualitative, which unless you're doing a fully qualitative research, if not, that is very useful to help you understand the phenomenon, understand the subject's understanding of your research, and to give you some insight into the topic before you actually go forward with looking at whether it is a theory testing or theory generation research. Quantitative, you might use surveys, you might use archival data, and so it is empirical in nature. And then the third method is experimentation, whether it's lab or field. We like to see more field research. The experiment, the nice thing about experiments is the manipulation itself becomes an actionable idea, actionable knowledge that can be used to actually to change practice, hopefully to bring about a better outcome in terms of some form of improved justice and equality. So we also like to see you pay attention to the nature of your problem, whether it lends itself to more multidisciplinary analysis. So many of the award-winning papers in the past years, by the way, RBM also has an award winner on responsible research. It's on the website. You might check it out. Many of the award-winning papers are interdisciplinary. They a collaboration between economics and political science, between psychology or economics, between sociology and management and so forth. So interdisciplinary work, we do a lot of lip service to it. We hope that young scholars will take that seriously. But some research does not really lend itself to interdisciplinary approach. So that's okay. We're not asking, saying that you must be take interdisciplinary approach. We just ask you, encourage you to consider that, and then they'll give you a much better analysis, a deeper insight into the problem as a result of better project overall. So involving stakeholders in the research process, and I have more say in the next couple of pages. And then the third point is about intervention research. RCT, randomized clinical trials, randomized control trials, is a very robust method. If you're not familiar with it, I would encourage you to read up. Just Google 2019 economic science Nobel Prize winner. They use RCT method to look to reduce poverty in developing countries, and very robust analysis. That's why they win the Nobel Prize. There's another suggestion I will offer is that there's an idea called mega studies, and the author particularly known for that is Catherine Milkman at Wharton School. The mega study is a form of RCT, so you might look up her work. And there's a webinar that she did back in July, and the video for the webinar, I believe, is on our RBM website, which you can find and look at it as well. So the principles of responsible research includes two principles that are particularly important in our view. One is the engaged scholarship, which is principle 5, and potential impact is principle 6. So this is section 5. We would like you to explain whether and how your research involves some relevant stakeholders, and then explain who might benefit from your research beyond shareholders, okay? So we're not saying for engaged scholarship that you must use that method. We are encouraging you to consider the benefit of engaging stakeholders to help you understand your ideas better, understand the phenomena better, the subjects better, and then to also get your stakeholders help you interpret your findings. And then, of course, potential impact as a very important consideration because it relates directly to the subject, to the call, the theme of the call, which is some form of justice issues, okay? In other words, is society benefiting, employee benefiting, customers, supply chain workers? You know, who is going to benefit from your project, your dissertation project? Section 6 is asking you to provide a very brief summary of how your proposal aligns with the 7 principles of responsible research. Now, we are not asking you to account for all 7 principles. We are encouraging you to consider them and then to see which ones really will help you come to a better design. And then you can tell us which principle actually have were useful for you or were considered in your research design. Of course, all of you methodology will be relevant. Principle 1 will be your topic. Is that topic that research is service of society or is in service of shareholders only? Okay, so if your research is only about improving firm performance, innovation, market share, and with no clear benefit for anybody else, that probably would not be consistent with the theme of our call. Okay, all right. So therefore, it is really important to be familiar with the 7 principles, and I have the 7 principles here just as a reminder, as a kind of brief introduction to some of you who might not have had a chance to read the position paper or heard about the 7 principles. So core principle is that the project must be in some way serve society, and which includes both parts. Science is part of society. Science is a big contributor to progress in society. So it must be good science. And then service society, the knowledge from that project must be of value to improving society. And so that's the first principle. And then the 3 on the top in kind of orangey color are principles that help you enhance the credibility, the rigor of your research project. Though mostly have to do with methods. All right. And then the 3 principles in the bottom are to enhance the potential usefulness of the project by involving stakeholders. If your proposal makes sense to managers in companies, say, yep, I think that this project may potentially help us to know how to become more sustainable socially, environmentally. Then you have a good project because they say this is useful for us. So that's what I mean by stakeholder involvement. Of course, it can go all the way to collaboration with some business partners, with NGOs to do that project. And that would be even better. That's called co-creation, which is also a very important direction of research that's been discussed a lot. Impact on stakeholders, I don't need to say more about that. Broad dissemination is about how do you plan to disseminate your research results. And we're not looking strictly too much on that, but if you have ideas about that in a social network, you plan to write a HBR paper in addition to academic papers, by all means, please tell us that, okay? So just to be thinking ahead how you want your work to be disseminated to potential users of your research outcome. So the last session is on research timeline and then the budget. Briefly, we are looking just a couple sentences about how did you plan to use the scholarship. We're not going to use this to judge whether or not you will qualify. We just want to know where the greatest need of our students today. Is it time off to do more research? I mean, most of you are engaged in some teaching. That money could be used to teach one less course, which is totally legitimate. Is it to travel? Is it to pay subject fee, buy data sets, whatever? So give us a sense how that money is going to be helpful to you, okay? I think this is probably the end of my part, and now we come to the real application form. And has there been questions in the chat that I should answer before we move to the application form?
Not so far. But if you do have questions and you're watching, feel free to drop those questions into the chat or to raise your hand and we'll try to get to you.
Okay, all right, so off to you.
Okay,
Julianne.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Julianne Inarelli. I work in support of the scholarship, as Anne mentioned, and if you do email scholarship@rrbm.network with any questions, you'll likely get a response from me on behalf of the scholarship team. I'm here to talk about the actual application process. So more than likely, if you plan to apply over the next couple of weeks, you'll be working on the proposal document that Anne just walked you through. And then on November 1st and through November 30th, the online application form will be open. And that form has a couple of very brief questions about you, about your proposal. It offers you the opportunity to upload that proposal document as well as your CV and to enter the names and email addresses of your references. And we'll go through each of those in just a minute. Real quick regarding the document uploads, there are 3 file types that are accepted, primarily a PDF or a Word doc in either format. And there is a maximum file size. So I'll note that these don't have to be pretty beautifully formatted proposals. We're looking at the substance. So make sure that the content is there, that it's structured clearly with the sections labeled, and don't worry about graphics and formatting and trying to make it look beautiful. That's not the point of this particular scholarship. Okay, so when you click to submit, you'll see an application form online. The first section asks some basic questions about you. What's your name? How do we get in touch with you via email? Where do you live? Your website, if you have one. Where are you enrolled? The university, the business school, and the department, if it applies, and what country is the school located in. We want to know if you are pursuing the dissertation research independently, or if you're part of a research team. Several of the applicants in the past year have been part of a team, and if so, that's fine. We just want to understand your role in the project. So if that is the case, just drop a line or two explaining your responsibilities as part of that team. And then the timeline. I know this is redundant to what you've been asked to describe within the project. Here, we just want to see a number. What are those number of months approximately between the award date? And this just helps us with the analytics regarding the applicant pool. Okay, the next section is about your proposal. So again, there'll be redundancy here with the information you've put into your proposal. And this is just to not only make it easy for you to copy and paste from that, but also just to help us with some of the more simple descriptive information about your proposal that allows us to assess eligibility, run analytics on the applicant pool as a whole, and then importantly, to match you with an appropriate reviewer. So we want to know very succinctly, what is your dissertation title or research question? 5 keywords or keyword phrases that would describe your research and its relation to our focus on justice. We want you to briefly describe that inspiration for your research question. What motivated you to research this particular topic instead of, one of the multitude of others you could have chosen? What is or are the dependent variables being tested that relate to justice outcomes? And I'd like to give you a moment to speak to this, because this is important for folks to understand in terms of what we're looking for with a dependent variable.
Okay, well, all projects aim to explain something, right? So what you're trying to aim to explain usually is the dependent variable outcome. You want to explain well-being, you want to explain adoption of climate sustainability programs or projects, you want to explain higher wages for more equal wages for minorities and so forth. So those are the outcomes, okay? So we want to look at what is it that you are trying to effect, okay, to make a difference, right? And then your independent variables are the policies, actions, and things that managers and policymakers can take to produce that outcome. So therefore, we are looking for outcomes that are clearly related to justice aspects, and then independent variables, which we didn't say here, are actionable ideas. So if you say it's all about attitudes and personalities that will lead to less bias, that's not actionable, because personalities are not something that anybody can go and change somebody, right? I can't say we can select by personality. Well, then you run into legal issues, right? So just be mindful about variables that that more realistic variables. In other words, a lot of these attitude, perceptual variables, they are just not observable, they're not actionable, and they're not so realistic. Okay, I hope that's clear.
Thanks, Anne. The last two items here on this form are intended to help us match you and your application with a reviewer who has the experience and the expertise appropriate to review your research proposal. So we'll give you a list of different disciplines, and we'll give you a list of research methods. And we just ask you to choose the discipline or disciplines and the method or methods that are most relevant to your research. Please don't select all of them. That's not going to help you. We want the most relevant researcher match among our review committee. And last year we had over 50 senior scholars volunteer to review the applications that came in. And we do try to match on both of the discipline and the methods dimension. On the form, we will ask you, as Anne noted earlier, for the names of 2 references. So these should be 2 individuals who know you and who know your research. The first one, we ask that be your thesis or dissertation advisor. So you should be far enough along that you know who that person is for your research study. And then the second person can be someone of your choosing. But again, it should be somebody who knows you and your research well enough to be able to comment on the items listed below: the strength of your proposal, your particular qualification for this award, and then ultimately we want them to also give a quick verification of the timeline of your research, that it is feasible and likely that you would be completed with your project between 12 and 24 months following the award date. Please let your references know ahead of time that you are putting their name and email addresses in this form. We don't want them to be caught off guard with the request. And we want them to be familiar, again, with your proposal. So let them know you're using their names, ask them for their permission, share your proposal for this scholarship with them so that they can understand how you're framing it and understand your research well enough to be able to comment on it when they complete their form. The way that this will work is that as soon as you hit submit for your application, those 2 individuals will receive an automatically generated email asking them to serve as a reference on your behalf and providing them a link to an online form where they can go in and provide this information.
Okay.
The application forms itself, the part that you do, needs to be completed by the end of day, wherever you are in the world, November 30th this year. And then your references are given a couple of extra days because we don't want any of you to be disqualified because your reference hasn't been timely in their response. But those reference forms do need to be submitted by the following Tuesday. And these are hard deadlines because as soon as we pass that Tuesday, we've moved into assigning applications to reviewers and having them looked at as part of our overall review and selection process. And again, please just follow the requirements that we've outlined here. They're fairly straightforward, we hope. And by keeping your proposal in the requested structure and the requested length and with the sections labeled, that makes it easier for the reviewers to do their job of looking to ensure that you have adequately responded to the elements that they're asked to evaluate.
And I should mention it's also fairer to everybody because sometimes there is the length effect. Someone sending a really 25, very elaborate proposal, either positive or negative, there might be a bias entered into it. So we want to be fair to everyone. Okay. All right.
All right, we'll just take a quick look at the overall timeline. So as I mentioned before, The application timeframe is November 1st through 30th. We'll move immediately into an initial eligibility screening. Are you affiliated with a business school? Is your topic related to the eligibility requirements for the research that Anne went through earlier? And then your application gets assigned to a team of reviewers who will evaluate your application. And then the finalists from that stage are forwarded to a selection committee that is charged with making the final evaluation and decision on the awards. And those awards are announced March 1st. A couple of quick do's and don'ts. I think we've mentioned these earlier, but they're worth reiterating. Don't submit your actual dissertation proposal. We want to see something that is tailored to the scholarship, that is clear in its connection to the theme of justice and inequality, and also clearly shows that you understand the RRBM principles. And second, don't surprise those reference writers with that email in their inbox asking for their response. Notify them in advance and send them a copy of your proposal. You will receive a notification once both of your reference writers have responded to the online form. So at that point, you can exhale knowing that your application is complete and there's nothing more that you need to do. But if you haven't gotten that, it may be worth sending a reminder to them or just following up to make sure that they got the email and have seen it.
Okay, Julian, let me, I want to here mention also an opportunity for you to talk to your advisor or your committee member, whoever is writing a letter for you about your research idea, to tell them how you plan to write a proposal and to get their feedback on it as well. So it's a really good opportunity for them to understand how you are going to approach this project. And especially if you're going to make some potential changes, then it's important for them to know and to support you. You don't want to be surprised by them saying, I didn't agree to that change. And we certainly would hold you to, we hope that the process itself of applying would be helpful to you in your own development of your project with your committee. All right.
All right, this last slide, as we get to the questions that several of you have dropped into the chat, just is a reminder of some of the resources available online, both at the RRBM website and at the scholarship website in particular. So do check out the scholarship website for additional details about the scholarship requirements, to check out prior winners, and then take a look also at the RRBM website. You can find the position paper there. We encourage you to endorse the paper and also to check out our many webinars. There's a great slate of webinars relevant to you, whether or not you decide to apply for the scholarship. So do check out those resources as well.
Okay, so Julian, should I just stop share and then go to the questions?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So quite a few questions.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the first one. We'll take them in order. The first one, it says, Anne talked about young researchers, and I wonder if there's an age limit. You know, I think this is an easy one. The better term is probably emerging researchers, because you're right in a or a doctoral program, so no age limit.
Young, I mean professionally in this particular profession, new entrants, I use that word, but yeah, good answer. All right.
Okay, the recommendation on the website is to attend the Philosophical Foundation of Responsible Research course. Will it be offered again, and how important is that course for application?
Okay, it will be offered next fall again, but not in the spring. We already are into the 4th week of our class now. The course itself is not a requirement, but what it does is that help you introduce you to the idea of responsible research in a much more thorough way. And the course is really not for the scholarship only. It is really for all doctoral students, young scholars, or emerging scholars, junior scholars, junior in terms of career stage and not in terms of age. Learn about how to do science, what science is, and how to do science so that you can be really contributing to science and not just doing research for the purpose of writing papers for the writing paper's sake. Okay, so.
Our next question comes from Pamela, who asks about the independent versus a team approach to the dissertation. Does a team, when the dissertation research itself is done independently, does the team include or exclude the dissertation committee?
No, when we refer to the team, we're not referring to the committee. We're referring to, it could be a project by an institute, a project by advisor. It includes many collaborators, and you are one member of the research team. Okay, and the project has many other aspects of the problem, and that your proposal is just one piece of that. So that's when we know whether this is part of a bigger project, so that we know that both you have many other people that you can lean on to get help and ideas, and then we also know there's a lot. The project has a more to it than your dissertation. Okay, so yeah, it goes beyond the committee.
He asks, does it have to be your dissertation? My school has a 3 essays format. Can I propose one essay which will be part of my dissertation?
Good question. Many schools actually are using both formats, one dissertation or 3 papers. Assuming the 3 papers are related, which ideally should be, because you don't want to write 3 totally separate papers. You want them to be related to a central theme, a research program that you can carry on for many more years beyond the dissertation. We would like you to know what are the 3 papers, and one of which should be an empirical paper, usually, or 2 of which may be an empirical paper. Then you describe which project you're looking for, which of the empirical papers that you're looking for, that that's related most clearly to the theme of this scholarship. Does that answer the question? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm going to ask the next 2 questions together. How many applications are we expecting this round, and how many reviewers will there be? I think on the applications, we don't fully know. We had around 100 last year. And each application had 2 reviewers initially in the initial round before, being filtered down to those that proceeded to the selection committee round.
Mm-hmm. And each application is read by 2 reviewers. They said that, right? Along with a selection committee, we'll be doing additional reading of that application to make a final decision.
Proceed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then a second part to that question asks if there's a chance to revise and resubmit based on the reviewer comments. And unfortunately, given our timeline, we don't have the capacity to offer that as part of the scholarship, though you're certainly welcome to take that feedback and use it to refine your proposal and apply again next year if that coincides with your timeline.
Yes, the question, the Anusuya Banerjee, is that the?
A 3-paper dissertation united by an overarching research question. Can they be presented together? So an overarching question and then the 3-paper questions as sub-questions.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, it fits what we described today already. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then related to that and the earlier question about independence or team, if we are investigating questions that we created and are leading the research for, is it okay that the plan may be to turn them into co-authored papers with faculty members?
Yeah, that's usually what happens with dissertation most of the time, not necessarily always, that once you finish dissertation. You will be writing it up in a form of 1, 2, 3 papers, and you can decide who would be your collaborator. Thesis advisor usually would be, but not always. Some thesis advisors said, it's your work, you go ahead and publish it. Other thesis advisors expect to collaborate with you. So yeah, no, that's not an issue.
And then last, a question, if the proposal review is blind, do the reviewers know the university affiliation when they review the proposal?
Julian, you can answer that question.
Yeah, so at this point, they will see that information. It often shows up in the proposal itself, and it can be hard to mask without somebody going in and reading through all of the proposal documentation to make sure that any identifying information has been stripped from all of the applicants. And so because we're not in a position to ensure that consistently across all of the applications, that information is available to the reviewers. But, I think it's a very professional group, a group that's very attuned to biases in review. And that's something that we address with them as part of their reviewer training process. Anne, is there anything else that you want to add on that?
Yeah, there's pros and cons with whether or not knowing the applicant is from a certain university, certain part of the world where English is not a native language, for example, where training is slightly different. At the end of it, we did have a really good discussion about that. We decided it is more important to know, because then the reviewer can be mindful that there's English, give some slack to English writing for students coming from countries that clearly they don't use English every day. So anything we do, decision we make, is really to ensure that's more fairness than potential, and to avoid bias to the extent possible. Yeah, those are good questions, yes.
And then, somewhat related, will you allocate the awards based on the location, US versus non-US, for example?
We actually, no, not directly. Based on merit is the major criterion for this decision. So I don't know what more to say. This is not the allocation. We're trying to select scholars that could be intellectual leaders in your community, in your scientific community. So if and now it's a very global world, and many scholars, many students, once they graduate, they find collaborators through different parts, through the associations. So we want to be sure that that your proposal actually has a kind of scholarship that will get attention worldwide, of that quality. Therefore, we're looking for high quality from everywhere in the world. So the implication of the question is whether or not there will be differential standards applied. I would say no. But if English articulation is a problem, we would encourage you. But if the idea has a tremendous potential, maybe the student is an area where qualitative research is more taught and quantitative is less so. But the student aim to do quantitative research and need help, we may assign a mentor to help with that. So yeah, we give as much benefit of doubt to the application without having a hard rule of quota for each part of the world or for different kinds of research. Okay.
All right, we have one person, Anusua. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. Your hand is raised.
First, thank you for doing this and answering all our questions. If it's okay, can I just do a follow-up to something that you answered? So I think the inspiration for the blind review question is that I come from a university that has both like a program where someone has received an award and a separate person has been a finalist. And I thought that, I don't know how the committee looks at like one university showing up year after year. And I think was curious to see in a non-judgmental way if that would perceive how my application was viewed.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think at this point I don't think we're going to use that as a criterion. So we this is our second year, so we're learning every year. So in other words, we don't want to be unfair to a student who got an outstanding idea just because somebody else got an award, the person didn't get a chance. I think that is more important to us than to say we want to give it to a student from a different school because they already have one. Okay, so I think the merit of the idea carries a bigger weight than where you are or whether somebody else has already gotten an award from the same school. So yeah, but it's a good consideration, but I think you should not be too worried about it.
I would add, I don't think we have the capacity or the sophistication to be that coordinated to say, oh, there's somebody from this school who won before and factor that in. The process is very much driven around the quality of the proposal and the information in front of the reviewers and the selection committee.
Got it. Thank you so much.
There are some more questions here.
Can the second reference be somebody outside the business school who is familiar with the applicant's research? And yes, it can be somebody not affiliated with your business school. As you know, the important thing is they understand your research and are qualified to comment on your research and your capacity to see it through. Then yeah,
So
did you have
let me add that the credential of the reference letter is important. Another student asked whether it could be a business person that they collaborate with on research. If the business person has a PhD, has written published scientific papers, is qualified, and potentially can influence your project, yeah, by all means. But if the business person does not show that they have this training to understand science, then that might discredit. That would compromise the credibility of the letter writer. So just keep that in mind. We want somebody who really understands research, understand your research, to be able to render an opinion on the quality of the idea and the methodology and so forth.
Thank you. Zinnia asks, I'm a joint PhD student of 2 universities. Should I get letters from both supervisors?
Yeah, I would think so. But it's up to you. No, there's no big requirement that. But to me, if I were you, I would. I want to keep both of them informed about what I'm doing. So. I think we are probably questioned out. But if you have any questions anytime, please drop us a note, either through the awards mailbox or to me personally, and be happy to discuss any of your questions. So we want you to be successful in the application. Even if you're not successful, because it is quite competitive, we want you to have the opportunity to learn and to improve your dissertation design. And that itself would be gratifying to us to know that the process of thinking about your dissertation, thinking about how to use the RBM principles to help you design actually improves your work. And that to us is a very valuable thing already. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming, and good luck with your projects. And then look forward to your applications.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye now. Okay, thanks, Julianne. Okay,
All right.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Anne.
Yeah,
Bye.
okay. Yeah, bye now.